You know how Shopify, Wix, and ClickFunnels have a site that sells sites? So basically you can select a template and some functionality that you like and then buy the website and get started with it right away. Well, that's what we're about to launch today, but using WordPress instead. So in the next few minutes, I'm about to show you how you can launch a WooCommerce store that we have fully equipped with everything you need in order to create products that correspond to actual sites that you've built and that you can start selling right away on a subscription basis. So it means that you can collect recurring revenue with a storefront that's based on WooCommerce that has everything included, so you literally don't have to build anything and you can get started with your sites right away. In this video, we're going to be launching one of our demo products to show you how easy that is and how you can then modify those demo sites in order to make them become your own sites for the products that you're selling. In another video, we're going to show you how you can import one of your old sites, and then we're also going to show you in yet another video how you can start from scratch. But this video is focused on the demo sites that we spin up when you launch a storefront on wildcloud. All right, let's get started, guys. Good. So when you first log on to the console, you have a couple of options, and we're going to select the storefront option. And obviously this is a demo, so we're going to adapt our name to let that show. Then next up is we're going to select the subscription that we have. I have quite a few, and we're going to select the region in which we want our sites to be based. And then next up is what this video is all about. So we're going to be launching a demo client application, which means that the storefront that we're spinning up is going to be connected to an environment that will host all of my sites. So again, we have a storefront on the one hand, which is the site where your customers will arrive at when they want to purchase your site. And then on the other hand, we have the environment in which your client sites will be hosted. And the environment that we have on wildcloud is very special because all the sites share the same code base. So what it means in very simple terms is all the sites have the same plugins, language files, and theme files, but they are individual WordPress installations. So the benefit of that is that you can manage all of them as one, and you can also take them out and they can still own their own website, and it's not attached or dependent on anything that you have built previously on the wildcloud platform. So it has many different benefits for you and your customers. So we're just gonna give that a name, and in this case, obviously we're launching a website as a service. So we're selling pre-built websites, and that is a service that we're offering on a monthly basis. And so that's the name that we're going for, and ta-da, that's it. We're currently launching two different environments, as I said, and we call them applications because basically what we're launching is a SaaS, right? We're launching a SaaS just like Shopify, ClickFunnels, and Wix have. And the one hand of my application, as I mentioned previously, is the so-called storefront. And the storefront resides in a version, and it is itself a tenant. And don't be afraid, I'm going to explain what these mean in just a second. And the best way to actually do that is by going through the WaaS Client Application first. So again, we're launching a website as a service, which means that we are going to be selling pre-built websites, just like a website builder such as ClickFunnels, Wix, Shopify. That's basically what we're replicating, but with WordPress, which means that you can modify it to your heart's desire. You can create extra layers of code. You can own what you build. You can create new plugins, but you have all the benefits of the architecture that Shopify uses to manage all of your sites. And because this entire thing is connected to an API that we're pre-installing and configuring for you immediately, you can automate much of your business, including the sales of your subscriptions. All right, so how does that work? So first and foremost, we are going to launch the environment. Then we're going to be launching a version, which is what we're doing right now. And then these versions will spin up tenants. So the tenants are the actual sites. It is a multi-tenant architecture, which means that all the sites share the same code base, which makes them multi-tenant. But in other words, a tenant is just another word for a website. So again, these sites are managed through a version, and a version is much like a Git environment. It's basically a place where you can centrally and you can build your sites from a single source. So really, it's just a WordPress environment that controls all the other environments, and that's what we're going to be using to control the functionality of our sites. All right, so let's have a look at the application as we're spinning it up, right? So as I mentioned, we have what we call the version, and it's currently busy spinning up, and we're also spinning up 2 tenants at the same time. As you can see, these tenants are different. They have different functionality activated, and they have a different design. So one of them is a site for actors. So say, for example, you wanted to sell sites for up-and-coming actors. This is what you would be using. Or you can sell a site for dentists. So those are 2 different niches, I know. And we've kept them apart just to showcase that you can have completely different sites for different use cases, for different niches that have different functionality, but still manage them from a single source. And that source, as I mentioned, is the version. So let's spin up the version for the first time, because we're going to be configuring our storefront. We want our storefront to sell sites. And before we can actually sell sites, we need to have a look at what these sites are going to be doing. So as mentioned, we're launching an environment which is a demo environment. So we are pre-loading that with a couple of plugins that we feel represent actual products, and also our WaaS Client plugin. And this WaaS Client plugin is going to be important because this is the plugin that will control the functionality for your users. So the way that we do that is by roles. I'll dive into that in just a second, but suffice to say for now that a role is basically the functionality, so the activation of plugins that your customers are buying. So this is how you can distinguish different plans. All right, so we have a couple of plugins. We've had a look at them. So now we're going to go to the plugin called Tenant Settings. So now we're going to be having a look at our roles. So I mentioned roles correspond to the plans that you're selling. And in this case, we have a default plan and we have a premium plan, all right? So in the default plan, we're basically selling a WordPress installation that is fully managed because the wildcloud platform is fully managed for you. And on top of that, we're activating a couple of plugins that our customers can get started with right away. So we have the Spectra and WP Forms Lite. And then we also have a premium plan. So obviously that would be a more expensive plan. And as you can see, it has more functionality, the booking calendar included, and we are not using the starter templates. So I want to say that is, for example, a plugin that we would be using for an add-on, or for example, when we would be selling another plan, that would be another extension of what we could be offering. So again, you could be installing all the plugins in the world. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can install a host of different plugins. The tenant settings plugin will immediately recognize those, and you will be able to click and select them so that they correspond to roles that we can import into our WooCommerce store in just a second. All right, cool. So let's go over to the tenant settings, and we're going to need this in a second because the WooCommerce store that we're using to sell our sites, this URL that we're going to be using needs to be in here, and we're going to do that in just a second. All right, so that's that for now. As you may have seen, these sites are now ready. Let's have a look at them quickly just to show that I was not lying. We have a site for actors and we have a site for dentists. So these are 2 different designs of a site, and these sites have the same plugins. So if I go, for example, to my version overview and I select both my sites and I click on Manage Plugins, you will see that they have the same plugins, all of them, but not all of them have the same plugins activated. See? So that's very cool. So they have the same plugins. We can manage the same plugins from the version, but these sites are individual WordPress installations, which means that they can have different designs, different plugins activated, and this is how I can distinguish between different products for my customers. All right, cool. I'll show you in a second. You can actually keep improving those sites, and that is also a much deeper topic of another video, which is how can you centrally manage 1,000 sites as if it's only one. All right, let's go back to our application storefront, and in this situation we have just a single tenant that we launched and a version that we are using to control the functionality. All right, let's have a look at that. So we have here our storefront tenant, and only tenants you can connect domains to. So the version here, and we open it up, we have the version editor as I showed you in the client environment. This is just a staging environment. So this is the environment in which I install new plugins, in which I update my plugins, in which I update the new version of WordPress. And again, I'll show you that in another video that dives into the workflow of the wildcloud platform. But this is not an environment that you connect to a domain, and this is not an environment that you connect or that you open up to the public. This is your environment as a staging environment for all your sites at the same time. So why did I emphasize that so much? Because the tenant that I have right here, that is the environment that I'm going to connect my domain to. So if I wanted to connect the domain, I would just go here, connect my domain, go to my domain provider, add the A records, and then I have my wildcloud.so domain connected to my WooCommerce store. I'm not doing that for this demo, so that means I need to copy this URL, go back to the version of my tenant environment, so my client application, connect my host URL, and now this is connected. So that's something we need to do. All right, cool. So going back to my tenant overview, and we have a look at the PHP constants, we preloaded the API key of our client environment. So again, we have our WaaS client, which is the environment where our client sites are going to be. If we go over to the API keys, we see that we have automatically created an API key and we have connected that to the storefront. All right, so we did that automatically in this demo environment, which is why I recommend you to use it, because if you can modify this to your desire, you have way less to do. All right, using SSO, we're going to be logging into the WP admin of our WordPress installation. This will create a user and a password automatically, so it's super safe. We don't even know what it is. And when we go over to the plugins, we'll see that we have a host of different plugins installed, including the so-called WaaS host. And this WaaS host is the plugin that will connect to our tenant settings plugin in the client environment. And if we go over to the getting started, you will see that all these checks are, or all these boxes are checked, which means that all the different steps that you would be taking if you were importing your own site or starting from scratch, we still have this list of checkboxes, but because this is the demo environment and we do all the work for you, all these boxes are checked. So if we go over to the tenant, or rather to the settings, we see that the API key, which you would otherwise have to install or connect yourself, is already defined as a constant. And other than that, we have not much else to do. We generate an email that will be sent out to your customers whenever they purchase a subscription, and you can modify this email so that it coincides with your brand. All right, so that's pretty much all we need to know at this point, because the only other thing that we need to do is go and create some products. And because this is a demo, we actually went ahead and created products for you. So all you had to do basically is modify these plugins or create a few, or rather products, and create a few new ones. All right, let's have a look at what this does. So we have our name of the product. We can have the description. We can set a product image, which we'll do in a second. And we've pre-configured some of the configurations. So we have, it's going to be a subscription. It is for a WPCS product, which is the mother company, the platform that we're using, which is part of the wildcloud company. And then we have the WPCS tab, and this coincides with the premium role. So that means that whatever we have selected here, premium, is going to be launched whenever we sell this product. And then one more thing that I hadn't told you before is the dentist snapshot. So this is the cool part. When we sell sites, we can activate functionality based on roles. So again, these are the roles, but we can also give people a visual starting point. So this dentist site, I can actually sell this exact site by creating what we call a snapshot. So we can actually go ahead and create a snapshot here. And as soon as I do that, it will show up in my version. So view all snapshots. And when I go to tenant snapshots, we see that we have a dentist tenant snapshot here. And that will show up right here. So every time I make a site that I visually design differently and I create a snapshot of that, that will be preloaded here. And then this will be the visual differentiation and this will be the functional differentiation. So you can create plans on two different levels. So cool. All right, let's fast forward for just a second as I upload some images and I show you how the storefront works. So one more thing we need to do is connect a payment gateway. So in this case, we're going to be connecting our Stripe account. I'm going to use our test API keys. I'm going to fast forward again because it speaks for itself. But all you need to know from this demo environment is that you need to connect a payment gateway, and that's it. All right, let's do it. And don't forget to save your changes whenever you do something in WordPress. That is something that is often forgotten. All right, so that's it. That's all we needed to do. We need to connect our payment gateway. We needed to put some pictures in the products that we preloaded, and we are ready to visit our store. Let's have a look, guys. All right, so obviously the store is not visually as attractive as any store would be. That's because it's a demo, but it will do the trick. And in this case, I also did not differentiate between different prices for the plans. As you can see, both these products go for $10, which is obviously not what we would want. But again, this is completely up to you to customize however you like. So if we go to the checkout, it will just be a normal checkout and we're going to make a payment, after which a site will be spun up automatically. Fast forward just a little bit, there we go. Oh, before I forget, one of the things that you will be doing is your customers are going to select a website name. So in this case, I'm just going to put in test1 because this is actually the site subdomain that is going to be spun up for them automatically. So again, if you had connected your storefront to your actual domain, so say for example, it would be wildcloud.so, which would be my storefront. And then my customer would put in test1, the site that they're getting is going to be test1.wildcloud.so, which means that the whole platform can be branded for you. Nobody knows that it's using wildcloud. It just looks and feels as if it's your complete architecture and product that you're offering. So like we said in the beginning of the video, we're going to be replicating all the functionality that Shopify, Wix, and ClickFunnels have for you to build your own website builder, and that's what we're doing. Okay, this is it, guys. We have purchased a site in our new storefront, and this particular site corresponds to the premium site, which means that we'll have the functionality that we need for this. And next up is going to be I'm going to show you around the storefront. Let's have a look. So, this is just a normal WooCommerce overview. The beauty happens when we go over to my account. So if we go over to subscriptions, we'll see that we have our overview here, and if we click on it, it'll have an SSO. So your customers can actually log into their own WordPress installation without remembering their password and ID. They can just go ahead and customize the site however they want to. It will also show you the website status. So in this case, it is still provisioning. They can change the order details, and the beautiful part is they can also change their own DNS. So it means that after you have sold this site, depending on how you're building your product for your customers, you could feasibly be building a website builder. So say for example, you pre-install all the plugins that your customers need in order to get to market. Then afterwards, you do not necessarily have to interfere. They can switch their own DNS, meaning they can add their own domain name. They can build out their own website. You could upsell them features and services, but you don't have to. This is almost a passive income stream when it comes to selling sites that are pre-built, pre-made, and self-managed. So that truly is the beauty of this WaaS setup. All right, let's go over to our client overview and have a look at this new site that has been spun up just a few seconds ago. And when we have a look, it is our actor site that we have sold. So guys, you can also obviously enter PHP constant, you can set the backups, you can manage their plugins, you can add domains, you can manage all their sites from a single source, which I will go over in the next video. You can have different roles that correspond to different functionality, and you can let your customers do most of the management themselves, and the whole platform can be white labeled. That's all that we offer for free in our Storefront application. And if you want to get started, go over to wildcloud.so, and we look forward to having you there. Thanks a lot.